I'm Safia Osmani, and you're welcome to another episode of the Fulbright Women Podcast Season 1, where we bring to you the brightest women of Pakistan as we talk to them about some of the greatest work they're doing in their fields. So who do we have today? Someone who went for her master's to the New School in Social, Cultural, Cognitive, and Developmental Psychology. Naturally, as a psychologist, her interest lies in understanding different factors that play a pivotal role in a holistic personality development of human beings. So what are we waiting for? Allow me to welcome Anum Nawaz.
Hi, Safia. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You look lovely.
Thank you. You too. You too. Thank you for making it happen.
I am so pleased and I'm really excited to share my story. Thank you very much.
Anum, so let's just get right into it.
Yeah.
What led, what kind of experiences led you to get into psychology? What made you want to understand human psychology?
Well, I started working when I was right after my A-levels, so it must be 18. So I started working right then, and within a year, I progressed a lot. And during that duration, I was working with a non-profit called Youth Engagement Service Network Pakistan. And in a year, I became the coordinator for their entire academy, which was working with the Catholic Board of Education, Lahore. And I was training a lot of people, a lot of teachers, principals on different pedagogical methods, on language, on IT. And I introspected. And as usual, as frequent as it is with all teenagers, I was confused about what I really want to do. And that job, right after my A-levels, gave me a perspective that, wherever I work, they're going to be humans. So if they are going to be humans, then I need to understand how they work so that I can be productive. So that is why I chose psychology among all other subjects, as well as philosophy, because I wanted to know more about people so that I can work with them, for them, and build a community which is actually beneficial for the society. And so that led me to choose psychology as a subject, because I wanted to know the human mind, the human personality, how the mind functions, how can we self-actualize, how can we be more productive. And that's pretty much it.
Humans are such complex beings, right? And there is no one formula to kind of understand all the human beings out there, right? So what are some of the factors, different variables that you learned about in your studies that have come in handy in your professional life?
Well, you see, when you study psychology, obviously, like all other social sciences subjects, it's theoretical, all right? So there's no one perspective. And so there's no one way of understanding a human mind or a personality or a person. So, and even yourself. So the multiple aspects of understanding a personality helped me. The theory helped me. So sometimes I would use psychoanalytical tools to understand something, an underlying problem, or sometimes I would use the humanistic perspective. So there are different perspectives within psychology that help you understand a person at level that you want. So psychoanalytic would be very deep, humanistic would be on the surface. So just like that, Gestalt, for example, Gestalt psychology would be, as a whole. And now my recent interest in consciousness helps me understand whether our consciousness is connected, whether it's collective, whether it is different from the brain that we have, the synapses or the functionality of the brain. So is the subjective experience different from that, or is it the same for everyone? Why is it the same? Why is it different? So basically, the theories, the multiple aspects, together with the philosophical freedom I had while studying philosophy, gave me the cushion of being empathetic.
What is consciousness?
So we're figuring that out. In a nutshell, I would say that there are two aspects to it. So people would, there are many theories, but the primary theory is one that it is an output of the brain, just like any organ of the body. So consciousness is an output of the brain, and that's pretty much it. And then there's another view that consciousness in itself is something else apart from the brain, from the function of the brain. It is not the synapses, it is not the neural activity, it is not the chemical reactions in the brain and the body, but that it exists in itself as a whole. I would like to answer that with a statement that consciousness is one of the biggest mysteries which is unsolved to this day.
What role does consciousness play in everyday life in trying to understand each other as human beings?
Well, on a superficial level, which we call the easy problems of consciousness, it is just understanding. Well, say I give a stimulus to you, which is my answer to your questions, right? And you have this brain activity going on in your head, right? So that's your consciousness, right? And we are coming to a certain sort of say level of understanding, and it's going on and off, and there's a wave to it. But on a deeper level, if we think about it, it has to do more with understanding why do you feel different talking to me compared to talking to somebody else, and why do you connect to somebody more compared to somebody else. So consciousness obviously helps us understand the reality, the current reality, the present moment of somebody. But at the same time, we also are investigating now whether consciousness is related to the past, to the present, to the future, and is it a continuum? And how is it connected to me and to you, and then to other people in the community? So those are questions which are called the hard problems of consciousness, and we still don't have answers.
So does consciousness, I understand that, how consciousness is playing a pivotal role in communication between two beings, for example, in helping us find a wavelength so that we could communicate more effectively, perhaps, right? Does consciousness play a role within me in helping me find my inner potential? What is the connection there?
Of course. So you see that there are many types of people and personalities. So it really depends on how much you work on it. It's like exercise. It really depends whether your threshold is being met on a walking level, or do you need rigorous exercise to feel that adrenaline rush, and to to get all those chemicals running in your brain, in your body, and feeling better. So if you compare exercise with consciousness, so there's surface level of consciousness, and then there's deeper level of consciousness. And with certain exercises, you can reach certain levels of consciousness. So, for example, when you're dreaming, that's also consciousness, right? And that's a very deeper level of consciousness. So, if you meditate, for example, if that's a habit, if you use that to calm yourself down, just simple breathing exercises that could help you as a person to reach your inner self and to look within yourself, the good and the bad, and to then let it be expressed.
So interesting. You talked about the breathing exercise, right? Could you maybe just give one very simple example for the audience to perhaps try and see how that works?
Right, so breathing exercise would be very simple. I usually do a guided breathing exercise before I get people into meditation. I close my eyes, I ask my participants, so let's do it with Safia. So, Safia, just close your eyes and your feet should be touching the ground, and let your hands be in a position which is comfortable for you. Usually it's an open hand upside down on your lap. And then you start the breathing exercise. You inhale for 1, 2, 3 seconds. You hold for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. You hold it, and then you release that in 7 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's try that again. I'll do that for you once more, which is 1, 2, 3. Exhale from your nose. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so you repeat it for 4 or 5 times, and then you just start feeling relaxed, and then the meditation begins.
Yeah,
and,
it's almost like a magical, relaxed kind of feeling here that, your shoulders are more relaxed. Yeah.
Yes. And the trick is that when you really focus on your breathing, you're not focusing on any things that are making you anxious or uncomfortable. So it helps you relax in that sense. And when you especially make the sound of, you're letting out that negative energy out of your mouth. So it's just a start back before the meditation. Sometimes people feel giddy after this because we're not used to breathing like this. But that's totally normal, and you get used to it.
So this exercise would, essentially help you get rid of any toxic thoughts, any tension, any anxiety, all of it potentially. And so in order for you to get in better touch with your inner self, perhaps, right? And that leads me to, what is the connection of being in better touch with your inner self and reaching self-actualization?
Right. So the more you know about yourself, the goods and the bads, the more you can work on the goods and the bads as well. Everybody has it. Let's, confess. So we all have a brighter side to us, and we all have a darker side to us as well. Sometimes in some people, the darker side is dormant, and sometimes the brighter side is dormant. But as you know yourself better, as you do the breathing exercises and you get used to meditation and releasing all that negative energy and throwing it out of your body, you reach your heart. And as you reach your heart, you will know your inner voice. And as you know your inner voice, it will guide you what to do. So it's a very subjective sort of an experience where it is different for everybody. So when you talk about self-actualization, the more you're connected to your own heart, the more you will be connected to somebody else's heart. it
Fascinating.
magically works like that.
Wow, that is fascinating. Yes. While you're still at it, Anam, um, we're talking about self-actualization. We're talking about being more connected to oneself, you know, to grow better, to do better in life. There's also a debate, in the psychological world, which is nature versus nurture, right? Where do you stand when we talk about nature versus nurture in terms of holistic personality development?
I think it's both. There's a bit of nature, definitely, that's involved, but you can't really change it. So there's then the nature and the nurture. I'm sorry. And there's a nurture. And nurture doesn't always mean your family or your environment or anything outside your body. It also contains what's inside of you. So you can nurture yourself. That is why people say, love yourself first, and then you can love somebody else, because that is you nurturing yourself. So yourself as a person also needs some kind of nutrition, which comes from the brain. It doesn't come from the food all the time, or coffee or tea, but it comes from other ideological aspects as well. So you've got to nurture yourself. And when you talk about the nature and nurture, it's really not this. Sometimes I call it an excuse, which might be a little harsh. कि जी हमारी तो our environment was so harsh, and we grew up in this harsh environment, and so that is why we are like that. Well, all right, great that you recognized that your environment was harsh and which made you be a certain person, but that doesn't mean you can't change it. So I believe it's both the nature and the nurture, but the nurture aspect is so huge that you can really change it and make yourself a really great person, a really productive person who can work with people and who can benefit the society. That is all we want. So nature is what you can really control.
There's there's an aspect that I know that you're really big on, which I would assume would fall under nurture. It's self-expression. Do you want to talk about self-expression?
Yeah, so I have a couple of initiatives around self expression, and you will see how they are about self expression, but they're entirely different. And somebody, when they would look at those initiatives, they'd be like, these are not related. But then you're like, when you tell them, well, it's all about expression, then they sort of get it. So I started an initiative called My Voice and Heard a long time ago. It was before I did my Fulbright. And I was keen on the fact that we only appreciate people when they die. So why not appreciate people when they're alive? Why don't we do that? So I brought people on board who would give me interviews at that time, and we would have a crowd and they would talk about their life. I wanted to know them as as a person and not as a professional. Usually when you talk about identity and you talk about if I ask who is Safia, you would really talk about your name, your background, your degree, and what you do. But I really wanted to know all these great people who are doing great stuff and who have done great stuff in the past. Who are they? So it was about expressing themselves, being vulnerable in front of the public. That then changed into another initiative called Academic Accessible, which I started when I came after doing my Fulbright. And during my Fulbright experience, I saw that there was this immense amount of great research that we were unaware of. At least I was unaware of. And so I thought, well, we have so many professors who have spent all their life studying and writing and teaching. And so I wanted them to express intellectually. So first, I started with personal expression, which is interpersonal, between you and me, between me and the audience, and between that person and the audience. So it was interpersonal expression. It came down to intellectual expression, which was about the expression of the work that they do. And then the third project or the initiative I created is called Canvas Connection. And that has got to do with expressing to yourself. So it may be jumbled up, but if you're not expressing to yourself and if you're keeping all the things within you, then how can you connect with other people? You would be in a silo. So I created a project where people would meditate, they would do some breathing exercises, then meditate, and then we would work on fluid art. And we would let the art decide who we are or what we are feeling. So we go into a zone, and then we go into a flow, and then we create something which is a piece of art, and that is at that moment your expression as a person. And it could be interpreted in many ways. So all these three initiatives are interlinked, and they're all about expression.
I have a question. I'm thinking of a question as you were, talking about all these things. Your very first initiative that you talked about, developing these interpersonal communication skills, or basically looking at yourself as someone who's more than what your work is, right? We're living in a capitalistic world where we all face this like deep pressure, intense pressure to be productive all of the time, to be valuable, and the value that is the highest value that is placed is basically on the kind of work that we're doing. Where do we stand on that hierarchy? And then you also made me do this breathing exercise. Do you find people come up with these concerns where they're, the pressure of being productive is so daunting that they cannot find the ability to connect with themselves? Because certain times, I'm imagining doing these breathing exercises require you to be in this space of zen and peace so that you're not thinking about anything else. And maybe certain times when people are doing that, they're thinking, oh, I'm not being productive. What am I doing? Is it going to help? Does that happen?
Mm-hmm. So one thing, being productive is a very subjective experience. So my threshold of production, of feeling productive is different from your threshold of feeling productive. So one thing that I work in an art institute. And so there are many students who come to me for counseling, and they do have difficulty in placing themselves. And not in a productive sense, because they really haven't figured themselves out. And it's pretty normal for a teenage boy or a girl to not have figured themselves out and not have figured out what they want to do, what their career would be, how productive they are, what kind of work they're doing, and are they satisfied with that work. So I think my current experience, at least with students, is more about connecting to the self and then progressing towards feeling more productive. And the threshold is really also different for everybody, especially in older people, in adults especially.
Right. So yes, I agree with you that the threshold is different in every, it varies from person to person. The sense of being productive, that is also different from person to person. It varies. But one thing that is common among, a lot of people is everyone has a dream, or a set of dreams that they aspire to achieve, and that comes with fears and doubts as well, right? How do you help people? What do you tell them to kind of um, fight with those fears and doubts of failure, um, and improve their sense of self perception?
So I would say, Safia, do you want to start something? Tell me. Just an example. Tell me, do you want to, do you have a dream that you want to work on?
Of course.
Okay, can you tell me what it is?
So
In a
many
word or
things.
two?
So many
Okay, tell
things.
me.
Maybe a new business.
All right, a new business. Right. You have a plan for that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Start working on it. Today is the day. Start working on it. And what will happen? You will fail? Will you? Fine. So what? So what? We fail, we fall so many times. So what? Get up again. Get up. Get those things, those feelings, those dreams, those aspirations, those chemicals in your body, those chemicals in your brain, get them going. Start from today and don't feel failure. Don't fear failure, because it will happen or it may not happen. If it doesn't happen, kudos, very good, great. If it does, great, you have a new learning experience. So what? Just fail, fine. You have
So
another chance.
that's great. And then you help people deal with their challenges, right? Help them connect with themselves, improve their perception of themselves, all those things. Do you remember the time? I want to get back to you now, your personal.
Mhm.
Do you remember the time when you actually realized, oh, there's a lot of work that I need to do on myself, and let's get going? It's a different thing to be helping others, and a very different thing, I assume, to, go within and start working on yourself. What was that like? Do you remember something, some experience that you could share?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm going through it right now too. I lost my parents last year in COVID. Difference of 11 days. Within 11 days, both of them died. And that loss, that trauma has become a very big thing in my life. And it has, somehow I really can't work on my initiatives. Like I start working on them again, and then I stop, and then I start, and then I stop, and then I start, and then I stop. So it's like a wave. One week I'll work on it, and the next week I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to do anything. I just need no light. I need no people around me. And that's failure in a way. It is a failure that I'm unable to accomplish my goals. But then I have friends and community, and especially my husband. He would be like, no, you gotta get up, get out. And then I get up again, and then I fall back again, and I get up again. And it's been a year and a half, and I'm still not over it. And I don't know how long it will take. So these journeys of getting over trauma or getting over difficult times take a lot of time. Sometimes for some people, sometimes for other people, it takes a little bit of time. But at least for me, since you're talking about me, it's been a 1.5 year. I haven't been able to work on my projects as much as I used to. And I haven't been able to work on my research as much as I used to because of the trauma. And so you see, it's like a way, for me at least. For some people, it's an ingredient. For some people, it's a flat line. It always stays the same. So really depends on people. And for me, I think right now it's still a wave. It's been more than 1.5 years. And before they passed away, I was on a fellowship in the US in 2013, and I broke my jaws, both of my jaws, and my face was turned around. It was just flat. And since then, I've had multiple surgeries, and I always feel puffy and I can't pronounce certain words anymore. I have sometimes difficulty eating, speaking as well. But you've got to go on. You've got to move. You can't be stagnant.
That's a
So
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful message, Anum. I had no clue about your parents, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And I'm also aware that no matter how much anyone says how sorry they are or how supportive people are around you, only the person who goes through the loss knows the void that's been created in their lives. But like you said, persistence is the key. No matter what our journeys are, we have to be persistent on our roads towards, productivity, progress, growth, and just living, a life the way we wanted to. You're a
yeah,
beautiful person, Anam. I had so much fun talking to you, even in
same
these
here.
past few days. And this conversation has been so much fun. The healing, the breathing exercise you did, that really helped me, even if it was for a couple of seconds. But thank you so much for taking out time to do this, Anam.
It has been great talking to you, Safia, and I really, really enjoyed sharing my story, sharing a few tips that I know of. But I hope it helps, and it's a great opportunity from your side as well. And I'm really thankful for being a part of this series of women interviews. And I'm so glad that we were able to, understand each other, and I could feel that we have a connection of sorts, just on the screen. So it's been great talking to you, and really you understanding my position as well. I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. You have a great day ahead, and I look forward to staying in touch with you. Thanks.
Great. I look forward to that too. Thank you, Safia. Take care.